So, not so great news in Houston today. Jayden Higgins is down with an ACL tear. That is major news, a major blow to the Texans offense. But all hope is not lost just yet. We're going to talk about this injury. We're going to talk about the implications of the injury as well. And I got a special guest for y'all, my guy, Big Sarge. Got to break down this injury, got to break down our training camp, Texans training camp observations. I've been out there a little bit. Big Sarge has been out there the entire time. So I definitely want to get his thoughts, want to get his opinion. And I want y'all to have an opportunity as well to drop in your questions, to drop in your thoughts. We're going to do all of that right here on the B Block.
Going down, H-Town, Power Plug, B-Scott.
B-Scott from Hiram Club, B-Scott from Hiram Club, B-Scott from Hiram Club, B-Scott from Hiram Club, B-Scott from Hiram Club.
Welcome into the B Block with B Scott. I am your host, Brandon Scott. I appreciate y'all for joining me. Make sure that if you are not already, that you subscribe to the B Block with B Scott right here on YouTube. You can also find us wherever it is that you get your podcast. It was an eventful day, a newsy day today. Was not expecting this when we saw Jayden Higgins go down at the joint practice on Tuesday when the two teams practiced at the Houston Methodist Training Center on Tuesday. Jayden Higgins went down, left practice. We did not anticipate that it would be as serious of an injury as it was, or at least I did not speak for myself. But we find out today that Jayden Higgins is out with an ACL tear. That's not all that's happening at training camp, but that's certainly the number one headline. Here to break it all down with me is my guy, Big Sarge from Big Sarge Media. Y'all know him from just basically being on the scene at all things Houston sports, but most notably, again, Big Sarge Media, the Texans Cookout, which if y'all missed that earlier, my guy Big Sarge, Chancellor Johnson, Jonathan Alexander, and DJ Bieniemy held it down earlier today. So y'all make sure y'all go back and check that out as well. Big Sarge, man, how you feeling, man? Appreciate your time.
Hey, B Scott. So when you say break it down, like, I feel like I'm the old guy at the club going like this. They don't do
Doing the
break that
bounce.
bounce no more.
Hey, all you need to do is raise the roof and do a little cabbage patch, do a little tootsie roll. You know what I'm saying? All of that. A little bit. All of that. The stuff that the kids don't know that would embarrass all of my children. That's what we're talking about. I didn't mean break dancing per se. I didn't want you to start ticking, pop locking, and dropping and whatnot. But it's your prerogative, dog. It's your world. You know what I'm saying? I ain't gonna tell you what to do or how to live. You already know that. Not that you would listen to me anyway.
I can pop, I can lock. I can't drop nothing at 54 and a half years old, B Scott. So once again, thank you for having me on the block. I appreciate it, man. It has been an eventful day, to say the least.
Boy, has it not, man? I'm telling you, I was not expecting it to be this serious. I was a little nervous about what it would be, especially since we hadn't really heard much later on in that day. Like I figured for sure by the end of the day we would have known something, but the fact that it was kind of quiet the way it was did have me a little bit nervous, bro. I was not expecting an ACL tear. For the folks that have not had a chance to lay their eyes on the training camp practices the way the two of us have, and especially you, could you just describe before we get into it what you were seeing from Jayden Higgins, from like the growth that you were seeing from year one to year two, and what stood out to you about him at training camp? Because I know he stood out to everybody, and he was somebody that I was looking forward to watching going into camp. He did not disappoint. Obviously, this news is disappointing, but as boots on the ground, as somebody that's been watching it every day, what did you see from the second-year wide receiver?
It's one of those things, B Scott, where you can hear people say, "Hey, man, when I'm around this guy, I pick up, the little nuggets that they leave for me, or I'm picking up on the traits, the study habits, sit next to him, or whatever the case may be." But Nico Collins' imprint and fingerprints was all over Jayden Higgins' game, and you could see it early. You could see it early on in training camp, where the way that he was running his routes, the way that he was using his body, the way that he was catching the ball, you could see that, okay, he went home over the offseason and he studied. He not only studied tape, but he studied how to get his body right. I mean, think about it. Coming out of your rookie year, you don't get an opportunity. I mean, coming into your rookie year, you don't really get an opportunity to get your body prepared for the NFL. You're coming out of college, you've gotten yourself prepared for the combine, you've gotten drafted, and now you're in a brand new place trying to figure out everything that's going on. You're figuring out your schedule, you're figuring out your meals, you're trying to figure out how to spend time with your family, trying to figure out how to spend time with your spouse. Like there's a lot of things that goes on throughout the rookie year. And so he handled that very well to the point where in coming into training camp this year, it's just something different about him, and you could tell his aura, the way that he was walking around, and he was putting. You could tell he was putting in the work because he was still one of the first ones out, at training camp practice before everything starts. Normally, you would see him and Jalen Noel walking together, but with Noel being hurt, he was out there. He was still out there early. So watching him and seeing him, one of the biggest things though, B, is you could see that he had gotten comfortable. He had started getting comfortable in that offense, and he had started getting on the same page as CJ Stroud. So I just watched him, develop throughout OTAs, minicamp, and through training camp. And you say to yourself, okay, he is going to be someone that's going to help this offense, someone that's going to help CJ also go to that next level.
Yeah, man, I think you put it well, and that's the disappointing part about it. Like I remember after the first preseason game last week, we had a call in. Shout out to my guy Wood, who is a loyal listener over there at 95.7 The Fan, and calls in to the post game show all the time. But he had gone off about how the Texans didn't have no number 2 receiver. I'm talking about after the preseason game.
Wow.
And it wasn't a knock on Higgins. It was more so of just a disregard for the fact that didn't nobody play, right? Like didn't nobody play outside the offensive line. Nobody played last Thursday when they hosted the Chargers, right? And so not only did they not have their number 2 receiver out there, they didn't have their number 1 receiver out there. They didn't have a quarterback out there, right? Like we already noticed. And so with all due respect to Wood, we thought it was a odd call, but the point that we wanted to make to him at the time, and of course this is before the unfortunate Jayden Higgins injury. So coming into the week was, Wood, they got a number 2 receiver. His name is Jayden Higgins. You just didn't see him the other night, and it was that opinion was due in large part to the things that you were saying and the things that we've been noticing out there at training camp. Like this guy looked like he was ready to assume that role, right? Like I think that was the role that he was drafted to take, or the position he was drafted to take. And there's just a learning curve as a rookie. You got to develop that chemistry and that trust and that camaraderie with your quarterback, and it doesn't just happen overnight. I thought that over the course of the season and throughout the season, there were different points where we could see the vision, where we could see where the potential was. I mean, dude had 6 touchdowns last year. Yeah. 6 touchdowns, and all of us, I wouldn't say all of us, but a lot of us came away thinking that there was a little bit meat left on the bone. Like there could have been more there, even though he was a productive receiver for them. So I think a lot of us were expecting him to take some kind of leap. And one of the pleasant sights out there at training camp was the guy that they drafted in the second round just a year ago was looking like he was going to be a top weapon for an offense that desperately needed it. So, I mean, that speaks to the disappointment, man. Like this guy was not just, I don't think just a complimentary piece, but a potential focal point of the offense. Like the way I put it on the radio today, Sarge, was like, Nico Collins is your coverage dictator. Yeah. He's the dude that the defense goes out there and decides, okay, how do we want to attack this? Do we feel like we got a corner that can match up with him and leave him out there, or do we feel like we got to go over there and give him some help? Okay, so he is dictating the coverage, Nico Collins.
Yep.
But then Higgins is the one that's making the defense pay for whatever decision it is that they make.
Yeah.
Right. So if you give too much attention to Collins, now you making yourself vulnerable to Higgins, who is a similar but not exact player on the other side. And now you're vulnerable to that. If you don't, then now you got 2 guys on the outside, namely Collins, who's the best of them, who does not have that extra attention, and then Higgins over there as well. So Nico Collins, the guy, the way I describe it, the guy that dictates the coverage. Jayden Higgins now the guy that makes you pay for whatever decision it is you make and how you want to cover the Texans. Now the question is for me, and I throw this to you: do they have that guy? I've been having Texans fans, family, friends texting me like, man, what you think? Trade for a receiver? Is the internal candidate here? Are you going to go pick up somebody off the street? One of these guys that's in their 30s. We know the names: Brandon Cooks, DeAndre Hopkins. I saw Sterling Shepard name out there, Tyreek Hill. You know the names. Like, what do you think about the contingency plan or what the Texans do next in Jayden Higgins' absence?
If the Houston Texans go out and get anybody, it should be. I'm gonna say it should be. If I had to put my Nick Casario hat on, I would say I would do it as a depth piece because being I'm one of the people that believe that they have that this is a problem that they have as far as him getting injured, but they already have the solution to the problem, and that's internally. Like I feel like so this is the thing that gets lost throughout all of this stuff. When you look at Jayden Higgins coming out of college at Iowa State, right? And you look at all the accolades that he had. You know, there's a player there before Jayden Higgins that had all those accolades, right?
Yeah, and he's on this team. He is on the Houston Texans right now, currently.
So when you look at that, right? You look at he's been in he's going into his fourth year with this team, right? We look at what CJ was able to do in his rookie year, and then what happened in his sophomore, if we want to call it a sophomore slump, but he was in that Bobby Slowick system and got rid of that Bobby Slowick system. Last year, everybody was almost like a rookie again because you have another rookie offensive play caller, first-time play caller in Nick Caley. So now CJ has to learn another system going into his third year. So what do you think has to happen to the wide receivers? The wide receivers have to learn this new system. And the benefit for Higgins and Noel was they're rookies, so they don't know any other system outside of this. Hutch is like, okay, so now I gotta, reconstruct, reconfigure everything all over again because I'm so used to doing this. And so I know that a lot of people are gonna look at Hutch, and what he stood out for the most last season was his ability to be able to block. Like he was really, really good in the run game. But he also didn't really have the amount of reps as far as pass routes are concerned that he should have had. But and with that being said, neither did Jayden Higgins because so Hutch had 35 receptions last year, right? He's only targeted 57 times. He had a career high of 428 yards and he had 3 touchdowns. So he had 35 receptions and he targeted 57 times. Higgins was targeted 68 times, had 41 receptions. We talked about the 6 touchdowns. He had 525 yards receiving. But look at this though, B, because people think that Higgins is head and shoulders above Hutch, and they don't look at it that way. They're really good friends. The people on the outside, the fans and the media are the only ones that do the type of comparing. But B, Higgins averaged 12.8 yards a reception last year. You know how many yards Hutch averaged? 12.2. So when you're looking and you're still comparing the numbers, both of them in the system for the first time, their numbers were pretty much equal. Now, some would say maybe the experience for Hutch of being in the league could have put him over the top a little bit, but we also seen a lot of mismanagement of the passing game last year with, Jalen Noel should have been in the game way more than Christian Kirk. And, earlier today, DJ Benjamin from ESPN said, well, they had 16 million reasons to keep Christian Kirk in the game. And I was like, I understand that, but you must don't want to win. There's too many games that Jalen Noel did not play. So you look at Caley, you look at him still trying to get his, feet set in the ground last season. So as I digress, I feel like Hutch can play on the opposite side of Nico Collins. Just give him the amount of reps, give him the amount of targets. Of course, he's going to make some mistakes early on, but I feel like as he goes on and as he gets more and more comfortable in this offense, gets more and more comfortable playing with CJ, then you'll see all right, maybe Hutch, maybe Hutch is a guy that we were all just waiting to develop. And be able to be honest with you, Jared Wayne ain't that bad either.
He not. He not. And a lot of people are afraid to go there because he's been on the practice squad and he hasn't really done much in the league. And I think a lot of people are just uncomfortable with the lack of production or like the lack of a track record or a resume. But again, I think you speaking from a place of being informed and being at the practice and watching him and how he's practicing, right? And I've
Yep.
seen some of the same things that you're seeing, and I'm right there with you. Now I understand the hesitancy if you haven't seen that. And honestly, if you just and none of us have seen it through like the duration of a season, I can get that criticism. But to your point, I think it's a fair one. Jared Wayne has really stepped up in training camp. But I will go back to Hutch since you brought him up. I've been saying this. The most improved players on this team, for me, for my money, tend to be that combination of friends in the locker room. Xavier Hutchinson on the offensive side of the ball and Henry To'oTo'o on the defensive side of the ball. Like where they are today and my confidence level in watching them today is, I would say, like night and day from, no, not night and day is probably a drastic, but drastically better than it was when they first got here. And that's not a knock on what they were when they first got here, but there is a maturation and a growth and a development process that comes with entering the league. And it's a credit more so to the work that they put in since they've been here. I think Hutch is somebody that can, if the ceiling, like if you don't want to view Hutch's ceiling as the same, I think that just looking at his scouting report and what he's able to do, he's somebody, and I don't know if he gets enough credit for this. He's somebody that they can move around, right? Hutch can play in the
Yes.
slot. Hutch can play outside, and they value that. And I think fans should value that. Somebody that's interchangeable parts, like Nico is, just to a much larger degree. But Nico can line up anywhere. Hutch can line up anywhere. Tank, people sometimes misconstrue if they don't really watch the Texans like that and think because he's small, he's a slot guy. He actually lines up outside, but he can do really whatever, like whatever they want him to do.
It's
So
really
that's they
effective
got
as
a
an
they got
outside
a
guy.
bunch of guys that can move around, and Hutch is one of those guys. Now, if you don't feel as comfortable with that, look, I'm not really sure what to tell you, but Hutch is right there and has improved and progressed over time. So, and I'm seeing it in the comment section now. Like somebody mentioned that, where was it? I had the comment right here. Let me find y'all. From Text Up Daily says, mind you, Hutch is in a contract year. Bro is hungry, and this is the time to eat. I mean, even if you put that part aside, like I mentioned, he has improved, but this is something to keep in mind too, right? Like we just saw Henry To'oTo'o get paid, right, right here during training camp, or right as training camp was starting, and Hutch is basically playing for his future, at least what the future is going to look like in his career, whether that's here or elsewhere.
They're really good
So
friends too.
yeah. So
Hutch,
this is
Hutch and Henry, their lockers are right next to each other. That's my block. That's my one of my blocks. But yeah, they right next to each other. They spend a lot of time with each other in the off season. This past off season, Henry had his first football camp on the West Coast, and he had a football camp and a flag football tournament, a girls flag football tournament, and Hutch was right
yeah.
there helping out in both.
Yeah, so Hutch is an internal candidate that I like, and I'll just say this before I move on to the next point, is that I actually like that option the best, right? Like I think it's a bit of a pipe dream. You've seen it out there because this is what we do. The content creation game, we got to feed the machine, feed the beast. So I ain't knocking nobody for nothing, but I seen it out there. People talking about, oh, it's time to trade for Marvin Harrison Jr. and all of that kind of stuff, and I'm like, look. Now, would I welcome Marvin Harrison Jr. to this organization with welcome arms? Absolutely. But like, let's not overreact. I don't think it's that drastic to where you got to do all of that. Now, again, if there was a situation where they could swing that, I don't think I'm complaining. But Hutch, I think this, the Hutchinson no combination with Tank Dell kind of in your back pocket, and we'll get to him in a little bit. But between that mix, I feel like that should be enough to at least get you by if not be something that's really good for you. So I'm not as down on that, even though I'm acknowledging this is not a good day to lose Jayden Higgins. And in no context am I trying to paint it as a good thing. This is a bad thing that happened to the Texans. But I don't think that all is lost, given what they have in the room.
And I will say this, B. I said this earlier. I'll say it again right here. What the secret weapon I feel that the Texans have to help, even though they're going to be without Higgins for the entire year, is David Montgomery. If you can get the running game going with David Montgomery, and he's also a back that can catch out of the backfield. But if you're not going to use him to catch out of the backfield, then you can use Woody Marks as a receiver. I mean, we seen again in the joint practice against the Raiders. I mean, Woody caught a touchdown, came out scot-free, wide open, and CJ found him right there, when they were doing the red zone. And so, but David Montgomery, I feel like, is going to be that X factor. And don't get me wrong, I felt like that they would have like really been, or they would have been a really good offense if Higgins would have been, if Higgins doesn't go down with the injury. But I still feel like they're going to be an effective offense because you revamped that offensive line. You brought in a real running back. Like, think about it like this: if Joe Mixon plays last season, the Houston Texans look different. And I know that they rattled off. They went on a crazy, ridiculous winning streak after going 0-3. A lot of those games were one-score games, but you got Mixon in there, and the way that they're playing, the way that they was playing, and with that defense, you could see. I mean, insert Joe Mixon, they would have. They could have made it to the AFC Championship game. Now you have David Montgomery. You're going to put better protection around CJ. You're going to give him a little bit more time in the pocket. He's navigating the pocket a whole lot better. And he's in his second year of the system. And Nick Caley has said, this is our system, CJ. This ain't mine. This is ours. How can we make this work together? This is yours. This is mine. This is Jerry Shaplinsky, the quarterback's coach. This is ours. Let's find a way to make this work so that I'm gonna be honest with you, B. I don't know if you've seen this or not, but during a joint training, during the joint practice against the Raiders, I seen a more mature and a more commanding CJ at the line of scrimmage. It wasn't jittery. It wasn't trying to say another. It was, all right, here. All right, we got this. All right, let's go, right? You know what I'm saying? As far as snapping the ball and then going. So that's how I see it. I feel like the running game is going to really help.
So you lead me right into my next point, my next question for you. You talked about CJ, talked about Nick Caley. This Higgins injury, again, is major. What do you feel like it means for Stroud and Caley? And really what I'm getting at is I feel like it does put a slight amount of, not an enormous, but a slight amount of more pressure on. First, I got it here as Stroud and Caley, but I'll start with Caley as a play caller, because one of the questions that I had going in, and I think this question remains, is where will the explosive plays come from? And that is a matter of a question of scheme and what is the play caller doing to scheme up an advantage. He's got one less tool in his toolbox to do that with. We just got to acknowledge that. Even if we got confidence in Hutchinson or whoever else, that is one less weapon in the toolbox. And then for Stroud, of course, that's one less option for him to go with the football. So given what we were seeing from Jayden Higgins in training camp and how Stroud was seeking him out, right? Not the only guy he was seeking out, but hey, a big body target getting open, you're going to seek him out. And he was doing that in training camp. Caley, you got to figure if he got sense, he's going to try to get that guy the ball. Given that they don't have that guy, we talked a little bit about it already with Hutch and some of their different options. I like that you let us in with the running backs, because I think that's an opportunity to talk about them right now. Yeah. And I was mentioning this to my cousin who texted me, big Texans fan, trying to like figure out, man, what's going on, what we're going to do. He live out in Austin, but big Texans fan. And he's like, man, what we need to do? Do we need to trade? Do we know what's going on? And I'm like, man, I I really feel like the internal options are there, not just at the receiver position, but if Kaylee can scheme it up right, and if Stroud is making good decisions and has that command that you're talking about, that comfortability in the system in his second year, I'm hoping to see the running backs and the tight ends be more involved in the passing game this season in a way that they just simply were not last season. So I'll throw that to you. What do you feel like this Higgins injury means for the coordinator quarterback combination here in Houston?
If this was last year, I'd be like, the Texans are in trouble. If this was last season, I'd be like, they're in trouble. They wouldn't have a way to. I wouldn't see any light at the end of the tunnel for them. But because it's year 2 for Nick Caley, because it's year 2 for CJ Stroud, when you have a quarterback like CJ, now think about it, B. We've seen CJ do much more with less. Like we've seen CJ operate with less. Now you're giving him a heads up that hey, this guy isn't going to be here for the entire year. So now we have to to do some things where I'm sorry, we're going to have to reconfigure some of this offense, and it's only based off of. And I think that if we had Hutch on this show with us right now, I think he'd probably agree. It's only based off of. I think that Higgins may be more athletic than Hutch. If I had to give an edge as far as athleticism is concerned, I would give that to Higgins over Hutch.
I think that's fair.
But so now you're thinking about those plays that some of those plays you're like, hey man, look, we're gonna call this play and hey Jayden just out athlete them. You know what I mean? Hey, you know what this play requires for you to do? Go downfield, turn around, box him out, catch it, turn it upfield. Hey man, just go here 5, go 7 yards, go in. We'll get you the ball, right? Point blank, that's what we need you to do. Catch the ball, get him up off of you, get up out of here. And so now you insert Hutch, who it doesn't have is not of a bigger frame or stature as Higgins. So now you say, okay, so those plays that we were going to out athlete you, now we got to scheme it up a little bit more and get Hutch into a spot to where he can do some yards after the catch. Yak is what they call it. Get him into that system. I mean, get him into some of those plays because you can still run the same plays that you were going to run for Higgins. You just may have to configure them a little bit different. So, I'm gonna be honest with you. I feel like this is just, this was a bump in the road, right? And now, don't get me wrong, this wasn't just this wasn't a speed bump. This is like one of them, that like how they always fix in Macau.
Yeah.
You know
Boy,
how they
don't even get me started on how many tires I didn't have to change on Macau, man. I might have learned how to change a tire on Macau. Macau is the because I ain't no kind of handyman, but I can change a tire, battery, little small stuff in a car. The reason why is either Macau or whenever I was messing around on that north side where I ain't had no business, I'd be on West Montgomery or on some of them railroad tracks or something like that out in Acres Homes. But one of the other would be the reason though, dog.
Yeah. So you see what I'm saying? So I would say you're not going over a speed bump in some apartments. You just hit a huge pothole on Macau. So now what do you have to do? Now your tire, you done blow out a tire. Pull over to the side. Hey, you got a spare that can hold you until you can get to a tire. And fortunate for you because I think we're past the time where I can't get you demonetized, right?
Yeah, no, we making money in here now, dog.
I know. So but
I don't money now. We good, baby. We good. Go ahead and do your thing. We making money now. Let's go.
Cool. So B. So you know how most black people don't have full tires, right? We ride that spare and that donut for a minute, right?
Yeah, a little longer than we should. A little longer than we should.
Yeah. I'd be like, hey, where you going with that little bit ass tire?
Hey, man, I'm just piecing it together till I can make it work.
Bro, you done had that little bit ass tire in your car for 3 days. How many discount tires have you passed? Where you could have just got a full tire. So B, look,
Hey, I got a compressor in the car, man. I add this bad boy up every morning. What you talking about?
That's what
Got
I'm
a
saying,
compressor
B.
right here in the car. What you talking about?
So you hit a pothole, right? You hit a pothole on Makawa. Your tire blew out. You pulled over to the side to change it, but instead of having that little baby ass tire, that little donut in the back, you actually have a full spare. Like you have a full tire. I'm sorry, your spare tire is a full tire. It is a regular tire that you got to go in the morning and go to the tire shop and get that tire put back on your rim if it isn't bent. But that's what the Houston Texans have in Hutch. They have a full spare tire, not just a little donut.
I like it. And then while we at it, while we talking about raggedy streets, Blue Ridge out in Mo City, Missouri City, fix Blue Ridge. Please fix Blue Ridge going toward trying to get toward Post Oak and Fuquay and all that. When I'm on Blue Ridge, man, I got to ride on the wrong side of the road. Even in my truck, I won't even ride my truck through there because I'm so
Yeah.
used to riding little. This is my first truck. I ain't gonna lie to y'all. I got my first truck, so I ain't really used to big bodying. So I ride that bad boy like a little car sometimes and skirt right past. Hey, I don't care if this is a big old truck. Y'all not messing up my navigator on no damn Blue Ridge. So Mo City, I don't know if I need to talk to the city council, the county commissioners. I ain't gonna call them none of them out by name because I know some of them, and we cool. But y'all know who y'all are. Y'all need to fix Blue Ridge because I don't have an Xavier Hutchinson type of tire in my back. All right, I got the lowest of the practice squad guy type of donut in my car, or none at all in some cases. But whatever the case, I ain't got time to be trifling with Blue Ridge. So y'all fix that.
One more thing, B. One more thing, and one more thing, because I see in the comments a lot of people talking about some raggedy streets. Let me tell you a street that's raggedy, but I have to preface my statement by saying the other end of this street I'm about to name. Okay, the other end,
All right.
like the end, like the end that's near like the Beltway of 59,
Oh, I already know
headed
what you're gonna
towards
say.
Leaf,
Yeah, I
right?
already know what you're gonna say. Go ahead.
Yeah, because Bissonnet has some bad streets, but not Bissonnet that's over by Chimney Rock and headed
Right.
into like going towards Bella. Not on that end. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Because on that end, around that area, the Hillcroft, like they got way more problems than toe up streets over there. Okay. I'm
Yeah.
talking about the other end, like on like on the opposite end where Westwood Mall used to be. That over
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, you still in the streets if you on Bissonnet on that end, but you in the streets in a different way. You gonna need a change or something, but the tire might not necessarily be it. But that's one of those. That's one of those. If you know, you know. Now I love that
Facts.
we just got people. We got people trying to make comparisons to what type of spare tire I got. I feel like this is gonna be a reason to insult people, and I don't want to make it that. I wasn't trying to take shots. We insulting some of the streets of Houston and demanding our local leaders do something about it, dog. It's kind of ridiculous. But back to the point, man. I want to ask you about Tank Dell because that's somebody who I think factors into this conversation as well. Really factors into any conversation, should at least, that we have about the Texans offense. But the Tank Dell thing, and I figured that you would be good to kind of throw this off of a little bit because we've seen him out there doing some stuff. Then we seen him out there but not doing some stuff. And I think for the public, it's kind of hard to get a beat on what exactly all of that really means. So from where you sit, and I thought Nick Casario did a good job, and maybe it was him and D'Amico, but early on in training camp, they kind of tried to temper the expectation for Tank going in, just letting everybody know, hey, he's gonna be on his own schedule, he's gonna be on his own plan. Know this going in. So I feel like they were trying to again temper the expectations and keep us all from overreacting to whatever it was that we saw from him. But from where you sit and from what you can tell, what do you think is the plan for Tank Dell? The likelihood that he could factor into the mix sooner rather than later? Like, what's your feel on it?
Well, B, because you and I not only covered the Texans, but we also covered the Rockets. We also covered the NBA. He, I feel like Tank Dell's going to be on a minute restriction, and it's the equivalent to when Jason Tatum came back from um, his ACL tear, when Kevin Durant came back from his ACL tear with Tyrese Halliburton. No matter how great he feels, they're going to have to put him on a minute restriction because he's going to have to ramp himself up and get himself back into, you know, in regular shape. And I'm just talking about that from an NBA standpoint, but I'm using that analogy for Tank Dell as well, because you can't expect Tank to just, run out there and be the old Tank Dell that you had from 2023 and 2024, the combined the combined games that he played in. So it's going to be a ramp up period for him, and I don't just mean conditioning wise in training camp. It has to be a ramp up period for him in these games. And the biggest thing is, so my biggest concern when it comes to Tank Dell, and I think you and I may have discussed this before, but my biggest concern with Tank Dell is, can he take a hit? That's what I need to know. Can he take a hit? Can he take a hit from a physical standpoint? Can he take a hit from a mental standpoint? Tank Dell hasn't been physically hit in almost 2 years. And it's one thing when you're playing football from Little League, say from Pop Warner all the way up to the NFL. There may be times here and there where you miss a couple of games, but that doesn't mean that the feeling of being hit goes away. You may miss a couple of games because of a hamstring issue, or maybe a concussion, or maybe you may have something wrong with your shoulder. You may miss a couple of games, but the fact that you've been hit doesn't go away. The fact that you can still take a hit doesn't go away. Be as physical as the NFL is, and as physical as these cornerbacks, these safeties, these defensive backs as a whole, these linebackers as a whole. Hell, you can some of these defensive linemen, because if let's just say they're playing. I want to let me think. Let me say. Let's just say they would play the Rams, right? Miles Garrett, and Miles Garrett fakes like he's going up. They drop him back in coverage, and you got Tank coming across. He's gonna hit him, and that's not a regular That's not a regular defensive end. Like, he looked like he could play linebacker at some point, and I'm using that to say that they've gotten bigger, faster, stronger every year. So at what point will we see Tank Dell be able to be involved in contact? Do you put him in the preseason and try to let him get a feel for contact? Do you want to put him in the first game of the season, and that's where he get his contact? Are you sitting him out? Or are you just running him a couple of plays throughout the first 4 weeks, and then fully integrate him back in after the bye week? Like, that is my biggest concern is, do I believe that Tank has the mindset? Do I believe that Tank has the heart? Do I believe that Tank has the confidence? Yes. I don't know if he is ready for contact yet. I know I got long-winded, but I had to say that.
No, I'm glad you said it, because this is a version of what I've been saying for a while. I want to say this was even a segment that I did on the radio, and I know I've done it on the podcast and wherever I've talked about it. And the question is, a matter of fact, I want to say this is something we talked about the last time you on the show. And the question that I had was, when will Tank Dell be ready for violence?
Yeah.
When will Tank Dell be ready for violence? And it's just more of a like fancy way of saying, can he get hit? I don't mean like real violence. I'm talking about the violence that is involved in playing football, right? The violence that's involved in his first injury, the first injury from his rookie year, when he got rolled over his leg and blocking in the end zone, right? That wasn't a violent play against him, but that's the after effects of a play, the residuals of a play, right? Just getting your leg rolled up. The friendly fire that was in Kansas City the next year, wasn't a violent play on him, but just the again, the residuals was violent and cost him greatly. So when is he even going to be ready for that? Much less a hit that is targeted and meant for him specifically. A part of the charm of having Tank and part of the appeal of his game is that he's so sudden and that he's so hard to catch. It's
Yeah.
like it's like trying to it's like trying to tap Superman in the phone booth, type of thing. Like he kind of got that suddenness at the line of scrimmage, like his get off is elite, so and his separation at the line of scrimmage is elite. So it's like a matter of getting a good angle on him, but if he's diminished even just a little bit, and then on top of that, not really necessarily built for the highest level of violence necessarily, with just being real about it with his build and everything, that does make you nervous. So between that and his history, and then also his importance to the team, if he is going to be available to you, like if Tank is ready to go, feel like you kind of need him to maybe not necessarily be the Tank of old, but you need him to play for you. You need him to make some plays for you, I believe. So so that's a big question mark, man. And I don't know if we have a better answer. I would say I don't know if we have a better answer to that today than we had at the beginning of camp. I know not the last episode that I did, but the episode before that, the B block, I was saying that there was Tank optimism. That's what I called it.
Yeah.
I called it Tank optimism because we had seen him do some things, and this was coming off that week that I missed, the first week of Padge. I was on vacation, and I tapped in with some of y'all and was obviously following everything that y'all were doing. But I did notice while I was out that he spoke to the group. He spoke to our media core, and I'm sure you were there. And so I was like, man, Tank out there doing some things. They didn't try them out there to the public, which they normally don't do if they don't feel like, they don't feel like he gonna really contribute. Then we seen him kind of reel back a little bit, and so I don't really know what to make of it. But I'll say this to the point of like Dale and his importance. If you can get, let's call it 70% of Tank Dale, you can get 70% of Tank Dale. That's obviously a diminished version. But if you can get 70% of Tank Dell, that's a weapon.
So
I don't know. I don't know exactly how they're using them. I don't know exactly how, where he's lining, what the plays are. I figure Nick Caley got to have either some Tank Dell plays or some plays where he know Tank Dell can be a first or second option on the play.
So 70% means that you're viewing him as a backup, not a starter.
But I'm talking like worst case scenario, right? If he's less than that, then what are we even talking about? But I was just kind of giving an arbitrary number out there. But yeah, 70% would be a backup. Like I think Xavier Hutchinson today, right now, is better than 70% Tank Dell, or at least I would trust that more. Consistency be damned. I would trust that more from Xavier Hutchinson at 100% than 70% of Tank Dell at his size and his injury history and all of that. And the fact that, like you say, he's going to have to be on minutes restriction, pitch count, make whatever sports analogy you want for load management. But that's kind of the reality.
You know what, B? There's another thing, another factor that I'm going to throw in, and if you weren't born in the 1900s, you probably won't get this reference. But since you were born in the 1900s, right, B?
Come on, man. I was born in the 80s, man. Barely, but I was born in the 80s. I'm quickly becoming a relic.
So
Quickly.
me, I was born. Look, me too. I was born in the 1970. So by us being born in the 1900s, we grew up at a time being. I'm getting to the age now to whereas we like your knee get to hurt and you be like, the weather's about to change. It's about to rain. You know why? Because this old knee injury that I had is starting to bother me a little bit. My elbow, I can't even stretch my elbow out right. That means the weather about to change. It's about to get cold. B, I say all that to say that old people will be like when they sustain an injury, they say when the weather's about to change, it starts to hurt them, right? My knee's starting to hurt. My knee's starting to hurt. My elbow's starting to hurt. B, my question is if they don't get him used to this contact now, then what are you gonna do when it's time to play in these cold weather games at the end of the season? How many cold? Don't they play in like 5 cold weather stadiums? They play.
Ooh.
They play in Philly. They play in Cleveland. They play in Lambeau. Where else they play? Like that I know that's like
That's that. I
3,
mean, that's 3 right there, though.
and you putting
I'm trying
him.
to think.
You let me see. I think I had the schedule up, but you putting him in these cold weather situations, be to whereas he's still you getting used to playing football. But I mean, and I know a lot of people gonna be like, "Damn, Sarge, you tripping?" No, ask some of these guys how the weather change. I mean, how it changes once you get hit in that cold weather. Do they play the Ravens here? Steelers.
Nah,
So
so
they
they
play
play. They play.
Pittsburgh
They play at Pittsburgh. The
and
Commanders.
Washington.
So they play in Maryland. They play in Philly, like you mentioned. Green Bay, like you mentioned, at the end of the season. Cleveland, like you mentioned, is in November, so I don't think it's gonna be warm. So yeah, so that's Cleveland, Pittsburgh, Maryland for the Commanders, Philly, and Green Bay. That's the 5 right there. 5 road games in November or later that are in cold weather cities. And by my count, I'm looking at all these are all outdoor stadiums too. Uh,
Yep.
by what I'm looking at from what I can remember. So yeah, that's what they're looking at.
That's all I'm saying is like if you're gonna use Tank Dell, you gotta have him ready before you're in in these cold weather climates like that.
Yeah, man, it's tough, man, and I want to go back to just from a thought process. I want to go back to and kind of feel like I'm reneging on my Tank Dell optimism, and I'm not trying to do that. I want to be optimistic, and I obviously, we all root for Tank. He's just a easy dude to root for. But I want to go back to the thought process of under promising and over delivering with Tank. Like put him off kind of to the side. I don't like whatever comment I saw in here. Sage Dragon say that Tank appears to be more of a mascot or a cheerleader at this point. I don't want to get that far because he is still a player on the team and they are still hoping to get something out of him. So I don't want to insult him as a player, but I do got to be real, and I understand where that sentiment is coming from. Of like, man, don't tell me nothing about this dude really until he's actually out there. With all due respect, like until he's actually in the mix and we can like put him on the depth chart and really have some kind of level of expectation. Other than that, it just feel like hope for the sake of hope or rooting for him just because you remember when and because he's a good guy and because he's good for morale for the fan base for the team for the locker room for CJ. So you want all of that, but it's just hard to predict and it's hard to get a real feel for what exactly Tank Dell can give for you or give you. But to my earlier point, like this Higgins injury does make you kind of turn your head back over there and say, "Hey, Tank." I was joking even at the radio station earlier. I was like, "Hey, put him in the game, coach. Go, hey, it's time to throw Tank in the deep end, dog. We need you, man."
Well,
But obviously his body is going to dictate what the plan is going to be there.
B, I said all that earlier, right? I wanted to make sure that I preface and said all that to say that for me, the final thing that I will say about Tank Dell is shit, he gonna be ready. And Tank gonna play. And that's
Yeah.
where it's left up to Kaylee and CJ to protect him. And what I mean by is Kaylee, CJ, and I think and Ben McDaniels is the passing game coordinator, right? Those 3 and the wide receivers coach. Those 3 is your job to protect him. And what I mean by it's your job to protect him is don't put him in situations where he can get blasted. Do not put him in situations where he can get hurt. Bring him into the game where he ain't got to do none of that muck and mire in the middle. Don't bring him across the middle. Don't run him on no end breakers. Don't do none of that stuff. Do Tank. Let him do 9 route, go routes, post routes, deep slants. Like get him away from the action. That way, if he gets hit, it's one person hitting him. It's not you trying to bring him into the action where it's all mucked up with defensive linemen and linebackers and safeties that's playing close to the line as to come down Like get Tank out in open space. So that's why I was like, he needs the contact, because once he gets the contact and once he gets hit, I feel like his body would conform to, okay, so now I'm ready. But Tank Dell can be very effective for this. This goes back to talking about what the Higgins injury does for does to Kaylee and Stroud. It forces them to adjust. It forces them to adapt. It forces them to be able to say, if I'm going to use Tank as that wide receiver on the outside, I'm never playing Tank in the slot. Now this entire season, I never play Tank in the slot. If I got to play Tank in the slot, then that means that I'm gonna have to elevate Lewis Bond up and let him play some, or make sure that Noel gets a lot of attempts. Let their bodies are built for that. Jalen Noel is like, he has a strong stature, so he's built to take those type of hits in the slot, and he's used to taking those type of hits.
We seen him. We seen him break tackles like his rookie year. We seen
Right,
him break tackles. Kind of an underrated, strong, stout dude.
Yep. And so now you let Tank operate in open space, in open air. Then if he's getting hit like that, then cool. But don't put him into a lot of congestion. That's just, the way that I see it, B.
Yeah, I would say this, that I don't need to see. I don't want Kenny Clark and Quentin Williams piling on Tank on October 4th when they host the Cowboys. Put it to you that way. Like I'm thinking of a team that's got two really stout, like not just one but two really stout defensive tackles or interior defensive linemen, if you will.
The Bengals do the Bengals too?
Yeah. Who are the Bengals?
Bengals got the guy from the
Jets. Yeah. Y'all put it in the chat. We've but none of them know, and they played him.
From the Giants, Dexter Lawrence.
Oh, you think about Dexter Lawrence? Yeah, him neither.
They got him. That's who played for the Bengals now, right?
Yeah, and then none of them guys for Jacksonville neither.
None of them guys from the Colts.
From the Colts. Yeah, man, I don't need him.
Somebody said DJ Reader, rich boy.
If DJ Reader was still doing his thing, I wouldn't. Rich boy called him Jalen Swole too. Swole. That's funny. But yeah, no, I'm with you. And I said this at the time too. This is not revisionist history for me. I just want to be on the record. I said at the time, back when he got injured on the goal line a couple years ago, that I want Tank Dell. I like the fact that he ain't scared, that he's a real football player, that he's tough, and that he's a team player and reliable and willing to do whatever it is that you ask him to do. That being said, I want Tank Dell doing Tank Dell things and not at the time what would have been Noah Brown things, or what this year should be Jared Wayne things, or you know what I mean, blocking in the goal line and whatnot. So that's that. Speaking of blocking, I got to ask you about this offensive line and what you're seeing. I'm calling it a work in progress. Not to say that it's not good, but to say that it is still a work in progress. We watched them in their joint practice, the joint practice where Jayden Higgins suffered that unfortunate injury. But the thing that stood out was how good, and part of this is because we're being real about it. Outside of Max Crosby, the Raiders defense is kind of Swiss cheese, especially up the middle. But I ain't gonna hold that against the Texans. That's who they had out in front of them, and they were able. So the positive thing was that they were able to run the ball between the offensive line getting pushed, and both of those running backs being impressive. You talked about them earlier, David Montgomery. I think everybody should be excited about that. Woody Marks is somebody who I think is going to have, like, I think he factors into this as well. As like, and I think I mentioned this earlier, if you can get them running backs and them tight ends more involved in that passing game, then maybe you can make up for some of that production in that area with those guys. But on the line, what are you seeing? What are you, and I'm be honest, man, when they first gave us them social media rules, when we first started going out there for training camp, I was like, man, I don't know how I'm supposed to talk about the line. If I can't say this, I can't say that. I'm gonna barely say anything. How about that? But I do feel comfortable saying this, that just based off of practice, they're just trying to find exactly where Keelan Rutledge would be best utilized. And I don't necessarily have the answer. I hope that they do, but we got a lot of possibilities, man. Brought back Ed Ingram, brought back Trent Brown, brought in Wyatt Teller, drafted Keelan Rutledge, brought in Braden Smith, brought in Evan Brown. What are you seeing from this offensive line that I would call still a work in progress? Where would you say it's at right now at this point going into the second preseason game, which is tomorrow, Thursday at 7 o'clock on ESPN? What you think?
Side note, B, I seen a
Yeah.
very interesting comment on Twitter. Wait, was it? I think it was Twitter. Somebody said the Chargers lost their starting center on yesterday. What about if we traded Jake Andrews to the Chargers for a wide receiver? I forgot which wide receiver it was, but I was like, wow, that's interesting because I didn't even know the Chargers was having offensive line issues again. But if you get rid of Jake Andrews, I guess that you just slide Jared Patterson back because they re-signed him to 1 year deal this year, right? You just
Yep.
slide him
Guaranteed
back
him some money.
as
Yep.
the backup center to Rutledge, right? So with that being said, B, I don't know if you remember me saying this. I think it may have been on your show. It could have been on my show, but I know that I said this before. Remember, I said if the Texans offense can get like 70% of a play against their defense, that's like 100% against other defenses. If the Texans offense out of 10 plays can get 4 plays out of that 10 plays, hell, if they get 3 out of the 10 to be successful, that means when they play other teams, that's 7 successful plays. And so the Houston Texans offense, it has looked a whole lot better. I would say they're at like 70 to 75%. Now, when you look at them in training camp and the way that they performed against the Raiders in that joint practice, so I say they're looking like 70, 75% against their defense, which is good because they started out at like 30%. And so now that they're there and they're like, at least like 50 to 70% as far as success rate on some of the team drills that they have against their own defense. Now you see when they go up against another defense. When they went up against the Raiders, like I talked about earlier, you could just see that CJ was comfortable. He didn't make a turnover till what, the fourth team drill, trying to hit Woody Marks on that wheel route, and the
Yeah, and
linebacker just made Quay
and
Walker. I think it was.
yeah, it was Quay Walker, and CJ just kind of underthrew it a little bit because Woody beat him, and it was just a little bit of an underthrow. It happens, not
Right.
not a big deal.
But for the most part, you've seen that running game become effective because now they're not playing against their own guys. That's why it's always good for them to finish the play. Finish the play. Hey, look, get stopped at the line by their own defense. Hey, keep running because you've seen that against the Raiders where David Montgomery was just able to get out and he had some very successful plays. Woody Marks had some very successful plays, and so B. I liked what the offensive line looked like on today is what,
Wednesday.
Wednesday. So that was on Tuesday,
Yep.
right? Right. B, I said all that to say this. I said this before. I keep repeating that. I'll say it again. I'm old now, B, because I have to. That's how I gather my thoughts. The Texans have a right tackle issue. The
Speak on it.
Texans have a right tackle issue. I said this on my show, and I said, I don't know if they have a right tackle issue or if Will Anderson Jr. is just unblockable. And then I said, well, we know that Will Anderson Jr. is unblockable.
Maybe it is both. Maybe it is
Okay,
both.
so so you give who's ever at that right tackle position, you try to give them a pass, and you say you're going up against the potential defensive player of the year. But then when you bring in Clowney and he's able to pretty much do the same thing, and then you look up and you might have Solomon Bird or as Ali Gay. Like you have the and
Yeah.
Gay might be, but you have these backup defensive ends coming in
Yeah.
and
Dylan
they're
Horton.
taking advantage of your right tackle position. I'm not going to say the names of who those people are until after the depth chart comes out, but they got a right tackle issue, B. And they have a right tackle issue, and they would not have had a right tackle issue if they'd have kept the one that they sent to Cleveland. You should have just paid the one that you sent to Cleveland. You should have just paid them, because how much are
Well,
they paying Braden Smith?
well, let me play a little. Fair enough on that point, but let me play a little devil's advocate there. Since we both lived this experience, we was here together for this whole thing. All right.
Yep.
Would they play their right tackle at right tackle?
At this point,
I mean, you know,
yes.
like, look, they brought in Wyatt Teller, so the idea is that they, bringing back Ed Ingram, bringing in Wyatt Teller, drafting Keelan Rutledge, signing Evan Brown. It feel like they got enough. Jared Patterson, giving him some guaranteed money. It feel like they got enough to make the interior work to where they wouldn't have to bump Titus Howard inside yet again, because you and I both are on the Titus Howard is a tackle, play him at tackle, campaign or political party, whatever it is. We are of that section of people who say that. But apparently, for whatever reason, Sarge, and far be it from us to see it that way, the Texans just did not think it was that important to play the tackle at tackle. So I don't even know. Like, I hear where you're coming from, but I don't even know if I trust the people there to even play him properly. For whatever reason, they do at least want to play the tackles that they got now at tackle. You know what I'm saying? Like, Titus Howard was a prisoner of his own success, or a victim of his own, maybe a better way to put it is a victim of his own versatility. Because
I like that.
Just because of the fact that he could play guard, they would take advantage of that. And when they would fail at guard, when everything they tried at guard would not work out and fail, it was old Titus come bail us out at guard again, and then leave us with this situation at right tackle where we're trying to piece it together. So I hear what you're saying, but again, victim of his own versatility. I don't know if I trust the people here to have used him properly anyway. I hear what you're saying.
You got to clip that part. That victim of his own versatility. Have you said that before? First time you said it.
I think I thought of that on the fly, bro.
Clean, bro. You know what I'm talking about?
Victim of his own versatility, little alliteration there, boy. You know what I'm saying? Hey, we did that. But for real though, like, to your point, I thought going into training camp, I thought I knew who the right tackle was. We are a few weeks into training camp now, going into the second preseason game, a day now after the first joint practice that they had, and I know less about who is going to be the right tackle than I did going in. So now they got some candidates, but we've seen everybody. I can say this, since these are all of the names on the roster. We've seen Braden Smith. We've seen Trent Brown. We've seen Blake Fisher. Man, we don't know up from down. We don't know left from right.
Are any of those guys Titus Howard? No. Do any of those guys have the ability to play the right tackle position like Titus Howard did?
I do not believe so.
And with that being said, B, when you have a player, so and this, look, people are gonna be like, well, Sarge, you're just biased because you know how much you like Titus. You were here when he was here when he got drafted. He went to a HBCU. You graduated from an HBCU. Yeah, you can say all that, and I'll be like, that's cool. But the proof is the proof is in the work that he did. Think about it, B. Anytime Titus Howard received criticism, what was he receiving criticism from? Oh,
guard.
Left tackle. No, left tackle or left guard. Right guard. When he played right tackle, no problems, no issue. How many times did he shut down TJ Watt?
At least twice.
So, and I'm just using that as an example. When you played him at his natural position, which is right tackle, you had no issues.
You know what?
None.
Let me correct you on one thing. Actually, even when he played left tackle at times,
He
it
was good.
wasn't Laramie level,
No.
obviously, but it wasn't no disaster even then. Now he was better off at right tackle, but he is a
Yes.
tackle, and preferably a right tackle at this point. But the issues would be when he was playing guard, and you know he just because he again, like I said before, just because he could didn't mean that he should.
Right.
And it was more of an indictment on their own inability to find guards to where they had to make their tackle be a guard. But hopefully those days are over, and that between the tackles that they got, they can figure something out. But I'm glad you said this, Sarge. I'm glad you pointed out this right tackle problem because I'm gonna be honest, man. And part of it, this is a blind side for me because I missed that first week of padded practice, and so I thought maybe I was missing something. Maybe it was something that I wasn't really quite understanding. Maybe it was a pitch count type of thing, minutes restriction type of thing with one of the tackles, whether that be Braden Smith or whatever it is.
Okay,
But I was like,
wait, B, wait. One, just real quickly. Listen to what you're saying. It's a what? Like you thought it could have been a what? A minute restriction at training camp for these people.
well, but Braden Smith did come off an injury. He did have a some kind of injury last year, so I didn't know if they
And
was
yet
just trying to slow.
you still brought him to the team and paid him. I'm sorry. Oh, you know what? Let me shut up, B. My bad.
Yeah, no, you. This is the point though. This is the point that you're making. There is a question mark. There are serious questions about what they got at right tackle. Point blank. Period. We do not know, nor can you, with good conscience, feel confident in what's going on at that position. That's with all due respect, but the real is the real. So
Gotcha.
yeah, I mean,
Our part.
I'm right there with you, and that is why here you see offensive line still a work in progress because I think the only solidified spots right now. You tell me if you think different. The only solidified spots right now feel like Ariante Ursery at left tackle,
Yep.
Ed Ingram at right guard, even though he's had a little bit of an up and down camp. I think they paid him too, and I think they feel confident based off of what he did last year, him being at that position. But outside of that, so I think those two, and then Keelan Rutledge is gonna play somewhere.
Just don't know
Where
where.
where exactly is gonna be the question. But outside of really those two locked in, don't really know what's gonna be what, man. Not really sure. That's a little bit of a not a little bit. Let me not slow play this. That is a concerning place to be, given how important it is for this offensive line, for this team to get the offensive line right this season.
So you still think that there's a question mark at left guard?
So Wyatt Teller was brought in to be the left guard, and and ideally he is your left guard. And if he can be, I remember I said earlier, if Tank can be 70% of himself, that's a weapon. If Wyatt Teller is 80% of what he used to be, I'm good with that because that's better than what they had. But man, Keelan Rutledge, maybe this is less of a knock on Teller and more of a salute to Keelan Rutledge. But like, he might be better than him right now, today,
Today?
and today. And if Evan Brown is a better center than Jake Andrews, and Keelan Rutledge is a better guard than Wyatt Teller, then it would make sense to go Evan Brown, Keelan Rutledge at the center left guard combination as opposed to rookie center who never done it before, Keelan Rutledge at center, and Wyatt Teller, who's not as good as the rookie center, would be at left guard. So I don't know if that's the calculation that they doing. That's the calculation that I'm doing from watching it and trying to understand it. But I think that's kind of up in the air. Ideal scenario is Wyatt Teller at left guard, is Keelan Rutledge at center, and it's Ed Ingram at right guard, if for no other reason for how they dedicated their resources to these positions in the offseason, bringing in Wyatt Teller, re-signing Ed Ingram, and spending a first-round pick that I think they traded up to get as well. They moved up a couple spots to get Keelan Rutledge.
Do you think that it could be with Teller because he's been in the league so long? He's preserving his body throughout training camp.
Yeah,
Get
I
himself
think that's
ready for the
possible.
17 game.
I think that's possible. And I want to say he had some injury stuff last year too, and similar to some other guys, right? Like you think about last year, Trent Brown was coming off of a torn patella or something like that, and so he was hobbling around, and he, he not gonna never pass the eye test of, man, that guy looks like he's in the best shape of his life, but man, he's just so massive. You're like,
Yes,
yeah,
he's a big
I
guy.
get why he could be an effective piece in the run game.
He's a big
But
guy.
no, to your question, I think that's possible with Wyatt Teller. It could be that. And look, for their own sake, I hope that's working out. I
Yeah.
do. Uh, so talked about the offensive line here. I want to ask you about some training camp surprises, and this is to maybe lighten up the mood before we get out of here. I got a couple of more positive topics for the audience before we leave out here. Who is surprised? Who do you think has surprised out at Texas training camp? And this can either be that somebody that surprised you personally, Sarge, or it can be somebody who you just think that the fan base, people that watch your show, watch my show, listen to our absorb our content, people maybe they weren't checking for going into training camp that has stood out since you've been there.
B. This is gonna sound crazy as hell, but then again, it's me. So some people gonna be like, "Damn, Sarge, like, are you being serious right now?" And I am. What I'm about to say. There's gonna be a couple of players, but I'm gonna tell you who I'm gonna start with. Who's been the biggest training camp surprise to me? Will Anderson Jr. You know why?
Do tell.
It's year 4 for Will, and you finally see it all coming together. You see it all coming together. You see the way that he carries himself. We can use it. We start with the leadership standpoint and how he's able to now. He is that leader. He is that veteran that people are looking at, especially when you have a young player like a Caden McDonald, who he says is his little brother. Like he like my little brother. I finally got a guy that's under me, and then he's taking that B. He's taken that leadership aspect and that leadership role, and he steps onto the field, and his game is so, like, you remember Sheldon Rankin said, practice goes the way Will Anderson Jr. wants it to go.
Yep.
Wherever he wants it to go, that's how it's gonna go. And we're talking about a guy who a lot of people weren't sold on when the Texans traded up and took him at number 3. That's why I laugh a lot, because there's a lot of people that's still online that praises the hell out of Will Anderson Jr. And they were the same ones. Well, he ain't never played with his hand in the dirt. How is he gonna? We gave up too much to get him. We gave up entirely too much to get Will Anderson Jr. And now
They looking at them. They looking at them nerdy ass draft cards,
right.
and
Exactly.
that's them being falling prey to analytics, over analytics. Because
Yeah.
I don't think analytics are bad, but it's the over analytics is the
Yes.
problem, and that's what they're doing with the Will Anderson thing, or what they
And
did with the
so,
Will Anderson thing.
and like I said, the reason why I say Will Anderson is because you see where he's come from year 1 to now year 4, and he steps onto the field like he isn't the highest non-paid quarterback in the league. Like, I don't need, like, Will probably knows without a shadow of a doubt how much money he makes, right? He knows how much money he signed for. He knows how much money he's getting. When he steps onto that field, it's like Will is almost playing with that chip on the shoulder of, I went number 3 in the draft. I should have went number 1. Why didn't I go number 1? Why nobody picked me number 1? Okay, so since nobody want to pick me number 1, I got it. I think Aziz Al-Shaair, linebacker for the Houston Texans, said that on the pivot, if I'm not mistaken, it's either the pivot or on Chris Long's Green Light podcast. Aziz, they asked him about the defense, and he says, and this isn't verbatim, but he's like, we all play like we're still trying to prove something to somebody, right? Like we're trying to prove something to somebody, and that's what Will does. Will is playing like he's still trying to prove that he is who he thinks and believes that he is. So I know that's crazy B to say, but though the little small nuances and intricacies that you can see from him, like when you have, let's just take Sheldon Rankins away from it. When you have Daniil Hunter, who will go down as by far one of the best defensive ends to play this game.
Yep.
When you say when you impress him, you've been around Daniil. It's hard to impress Daniil Hunter. Very hard to impress Daniil Hunter. And Will Anderson Jr. has done that. He's just like he said, man, I'm like, to see where he's at in year 4 and the things that he's able to do. So Will Anderson Jr. But the second one would be a combo. Jalen Reed and Jalen Smith.
The Jalen's. The Jalen defensive backs.
Jalen Reed is, I can see Jalen Reed, or them using Jalen Reed to play the same nickel corner position that Jalen Petrie plays. Like he probably is going to be the backup. Like he's a backup safety right now. He's probably going to be that backup big combo linebacker safety that I like to call Jalen Petrie, because he's not afraid to tackle. And he doesn't have the greatest cover skills, but he can cover, and he can cover in the distance in which you need him to cover. Jalen Smith, is he getting beat on some plays in practice? Of course, but you're talking about a guy who missed the majority of the season due to an injury. He missed the majority of his rookie season, so he's still continuing his rookie season. But when you watch the way that he plays and the way he tracks the ball, like Derek Stingley Jr. tracks the ball. He tracks the movement of the wide receivers like Kamar Lassiter tracks the movement of the wide receivers. Like he is really good, B. So, I mean, hey, but outside of them, Trayvon Sanders ain't been bad. What is the rookie wide receiver out of Colgate? I like him.
Is that 14 or 17? I think he got one of them team numbers.
There's 2 14s out there. It's him and it's Marte Mapu on linebacker.
Okay. Well, yeah, that's right. I'll be able to tell them apart, fortunately, because 14, the receiver not that big, and the linebacker, of course, is going to be much bigger. But I'm right there with you, man, on some of those guys that you point out. We talked about this earlier of camp surprises not named Lewis Bond because Lewis Bond, and you and I talked about him going into training camp, but he was also, just to be fair, somebody that people were talking about and was like an early camp crush before camp even started. And I call them camp crushes because they are like, this is obviously in a sports fandom sense, but players that the particular fan base, in our case, the Texans fan base, fixates on before they do anything, right? Before you even see him do anything. And he was that guy. And to his credit, to Lewis Bond's credit, he has done nothing but validate that excitement and that enthusiasm in him.
You part of the Lewis Bond fan club too?
Hey, Lewis Bond FC, baby. Lewis Bond FC. Hey, where is Corey at? Because we got to get t-shirts made or something, dog. Like, so people know that we was here, that we day ones, that we was here from the very beginning. We was in there shooting in the gym. You know what I'm saying? So don't forget that. But another one I'll throw at you, since you mentioned some defensive backs, and so we'll put Lewis Bond off to the side. Shout out to him for doing his thing.
Yeah, Lewis Bond's a beast.
And Jared Wayne too, since we were talking about receivers earlier. Jared Wayne has covered himself in glory as well, I should point out. But on the defensive side of the ball, at least somebody that's been talked about a lot, and I think is just somebody to look out for, especially as a depth piece, is Kamari Ramsey. Because you hear the DBs talking about him. I know Reed Blankenship was up there a couple of days talking about both Jay Reed and Kamari Ramsey, because those guys are safeties and they're in his room. But those are guys that like could factor into things for you if like you have injuries or you need depth. And we remember last year the Texans were fortunate to not have real big catastrophic injuries on the defense. Like their biggest issue was at that safety spot where Of course, the C.J. Gardner Johnson thing blew up in flames because they probably shouldn't have done that to begin with. But then MJ Stewart goes down, Jalen Reed goes down, and before you know it, they just trying to piece it together and figure it out. They got Miles Bryant out there trying to do whatever he can, right? Like they just at that point they just desperate. I think that now you got Jalen Reed, you got Kamari Ramsey, you know what I'm saying? You got obviously got even brought in Reed Blankenship as your starter. The depth in the secondary to me, and of course you mentioned J Rock, the corner. The depth in the secondary is scary. Like it's not just the top end. We know the guys. Like I'm gonna start calling them the 4 or 5. And how many interceptions they all had last year? All of them at least had like 4 or 5.
Yeah,
Yeah, 4.
4.
So we're gonna call them the 4 interception crew. You know,
Still
the
tipping on
Stingley,
fofos.
still tipping on fofos. Stingley, Lassiter, Jalen Petrie, of course, Kalen Bullock. You know, all of these guys, ball hawks, guys that are athletes and ball hawks and can turn the ball over or turn the other team over. But I keep an eye out for them. One more that I'm gonna mention as a surprise, and this is only because I'm gonna blame myself for this because I'm just admitting that when you bring in undrafted free agents, I don't really check for them until they give me a reason to, right? So I like, Colin Wright was another one I didn't mention.
Oh yeah,
Colin Wright,
he hurt right now.
because he been hurt, but while he was out there, he was making some noise. But guy that's not hurt and who impressed me in that preseason game last week was Noah Whittington, the running back, who like I don't know what they're gonna do with the running back position out like past the obvious of Dave Montgomery and Woody Marks. We know that's the 1-2 combo tandem. What they do on with depth behind that, I'm not sure, but I'm comfortable if Noah Whittington is in the mix because I like this, low center of gravity, the low pad level. I like the way he ran the football in that preseason game. So
I ain't putting him over Jawar. I can't put him over Jawar yet.
Jawar been hurt.
Yeah, I know what I'm saying, but I still can't put him over Jawar just yet because Jawar.
Yeah, no. Well, look, Jawar is obviously ahead of him because we've seen Jawar actually have a big game in the NFL like he did that last year. You know what I'm saying? I'm not taking nothing away from Jawar, but out of surprises, you know what I mean? Like Jawar is who I had penciled in that spot to begin with. Jawar, unfortunately, got nicked up a little bit, and then Noah Whittington got an opportunity to go out there in the preseason game and show what he could do. So, I mean, look, we was here in 2021 when they kept 5 running backs.
Yep.
And if we being real, wasn't none of them all that good, but they kept 5 of them anyway. If they were to keep 4 or throw one of these cats on the practice squad, what I'm saying is I would not have the same concerns about depth at running back that I might have going into training camp. So
Whittington is a good. I can't take that away, and we're gonna see a lot of him on Thursday night.
Yeah.
A lot of. But I got three quick ones that I just thought about in the midst of talking, and I'm gonna talk say them real quick. Tommy Togiao.
Okay.
He's increased reps. He hasn't lost a step. If anything, he's improved, and now that he knows that he's getting these regular reps, you can see him starting to play, better and better. Naquan Jones.
Ooh, that's a good one. That's a good one. I forgot about him, but you're right.
Naquan Jones has been playing very well. And Dylan Horton. And I think that we finally see the guy who we expected to see. Maybe, but I want to say we always seen the potential, but then when he went down with the cancer scare, he lost a lot of time from that, and then he had to get his body and his mind right. He had to get all of that right, but now he's having one hell of a camp.
Yeah. Those are some good ones, man. Those are some good ones. All right, let's get out of here on this, man. We've been at it an hour and a half. And shout out to everybody that's been involved in the chat. Staying active. Make sure you are subscribed if you are not already to the B Block. Also, Big Sarge Media, and everywhere you get your podcasts. Let me ask you about one particular player and that's Kamari Lassiter. I feel like this is just going to be a big year for Kamari Lassiter because some serious conversations going to have to be had this upcoming offseason, especially if he stay healthy, knock on wood, he does, and has the kind of season that we all know he's capable of. It's going to be some tough decisions. And when I say tough decisions, I don't mean whether you pay Kamari Lassiter. I mean, who do you not pay? Who do you trade? What ends up happening further down the line? They're going to have to make some decision. Do you just finagle your cap and just kick your can down the road and give a lot of people upfront money and find yourself 4 or 5 years from now with the bill come due, but it was worth it because that night at the club, and the night at the club is really just going to be the 2027 season or whatever it is whenever you're paying all of this money. That night at the club was just worth it. Put it on my tab. Rounds on me. I'm buying out the bar tonight.
I report the credit card stolen tomorrow, but tonight.
There you go. I'm disputing all of these charges. I've never been to Treasures ever in my life. How could they dare? Onyx? I've never heard of it. That is not my charge. But Kamari Lassiter,
diamonds. Go ahead.
Hey, KOD. Didn't they? I thought the KOD in Miami shut down. What they talking about? But Kamari Lassiter, and the reason why I throw this out there is because I was on the radio over the weekend and Devin Witherspoon got paid. And I knew he was gonna get paid because I've been watching Hard Knocks. This is Seattle Seahawks cornerback Devin Witherspoon, been a Pro Bowler the last few years, earned his money. But it was a conversation on Hard Knocks, like when they're gonna pay him, and they, to their credit, they addressed it and everything. It was kind of a storyline. Then boom, Devin Witherspoon gets paid. Anytime a player at a position gets paid, where it's a position where the Texans have a player at that position and they haven't got paid yet, it make you think about, all right, what's that gonna do for so and so? I don't think that they're necessarily related, but I don't think that they unrelated either. So it's got me thinking, boy, Kamari Lassiter gonna break the bank. That boy's gonna have his own money. A prince.
He has his own money.
You hit the jackpot this time, baby.
If you're really a prince, I'll marry you.
If you're really a prince, I'll marry you. I couldn't help myself, man. I'm sorry. We got to the end, and I done got real goofy and silly with it. But what do you think about Kamari Lassiter, the season that he could potentially have, and what his future could hold with this team? I ain't trying to count his pockets or count his money or anything, but I think that the young man has a very bright future.
B. Scott, this is where I think that General Manager Nick Caserio messed up. And this is where I think that the Houston Texans organization it may find themselves in a very peculiar situation and spot to where they have to look and they have to say to themselves, how the hell did we get here? But then you're going to look back and you're going to realize exactly how you got there. Because here's the thing. You're going to have to pay CJ eventually. And if CJ balls out this year, you're going to have to break the bank for him. You're going to have to make him David Mulugeta is going to want he wants Kirby. he wants Kirby. Hey man, let me go ahead and get Kirby today. We're going to change this to Stroud's way. You know what? Y'all don't want to give me Kirby. Don't worry. Hey, I need 6'10" in between the beltway and 50, like for starting from the beltway all the way to 59. You know what? Don't even worry about it. Just give me 288. Like he's going to break the bank if he has a really, really good year. And even if not, they're going to have to pay him or let him walk, right? I say all that to say that if you get that done early, you get that out the way, you can start preparing on how you can keep Kamari Lassiter. You can prepare how you're going to keep Kalen Bullock. And it's going to take some very, and I don't know who works, so I'm this is me just really just throwing out just a name. I don't know anybody who works in accounting, but you're gonna put a lot of stress on Jen in accounting when you had to pay CJ and then you got to pay Kamari, then you got to pay Kalen Bullock. So that's why I'm going to get to the answer, but I had to preface it by saying Like you're gonna have to pay CJ first, and then whatever's left over. Now you're asking yourself, okay, now I got some tough decisions to make too, because eventually we're gonna have to repay. We're gonna have to re-sign Derek, and then what are we gonna do with Nico? Because he's gonna come and he's gonna need some money. And not only that, if Ariante Ursary lives up to his potential, you're gonna have to pay him. Like, cool, you may be able to get some money back once Daniil go, and you're still gonna have Will. You got to pay him, but at some point, some of these players some of these good players you're gonna lose. But the players you can't afford to lose is Kalen Bullock, and you can't afford to lose Kamari Lassiter, especially especially in where you got them in the draft, especially when your scouting team did a hell of a job to go out and get you two potential all pro players, not Pro Bowl players, all pro players.
Yeah, they
Like
got that potential. They got
they
that
are
potential for sure.
they are like literally like knocking on the door of becoming all pros at their position. They're very good at their position. So, with that being said, with Kamari Lassiter's payday coming, you have to take care of CJ, and after you take care of CJ, you're gonna have to start working on what you're gonna do. What you're gonna do as far as paying Kamari. And here's the thing: the sad part about it is Kamari is going to be like, I need the apology to be just as loud as the disrespect. So, with that being
Kamari or
said,
CJ?
no, Kamari.
Okay.
Kamari is going to say, I want the apology to be just as loud as the disrespect, not from the Texans, just from the league in general. So I'm gonna go out, I'm gonna ball out, and I want to be paid. So you disrespectful MFs who don't want to put me on the list of top cornerbacks, you disrespectful MFs that don't think that I'm a top defensive back in this league, a top defensive back in there, you MFs who don't want to give me the respect and that I've earned. Not that you should just give it to me. Kamari has earned these things. Kamari has earned the right to be one of the highest paid defensive backs in the league. He should be one of the highest paid cornerbacks in the league. And so when you get down to it, Kamari's payday is coming. And if it don't come with the Texans, let me tell you something. If the Texans decide that they don't want to pay Kamari Lassiter, he will be the highest paid defensive back in the league wherever he goes. Do you know what the bidding is going to be like for Kamari Lassiter when it's time for him to get paid? If the Texans don't pay him, the Texans, D'Amico not letting him get out the door. I'm gonna tell you that right now. D'Amico is not, because because B, I don't know if you've seen the video that I put out where, so I had this thing that I noticed, right? So I asked D'Amico about it. I asked defensive backs coach Dino Vasso about it, and I asked safety Reed Blankenship about it. How rare is it to have two cornerbacks that can not only cover but support in the run game, who's not afraid to be physical, who's not afraid to tackle? And Reed Blankenship was like, that's very rare. He says very rare that you have that. But when you look over and you got K3 who isn't afraid to, he called Kamari, of course. Like when you look over and you got Kamari, he's not afraid, and he wants to smoke. Kamari even said, I don't understand why defenses don't adjust to me in the run game. Like they don't even factor me in, but I'm going to be a part of the stopping the run. I want the smoke. And so when you have a physical cornerback like that can cover, he's rare. So they're gonna have to they're gonna have to pay him, and it's going to be something that he earned, not something that's going to be given to him.
Kamari Lassiter is going to get paid one way or another, and if the Texans are smart, they will be the ones to pay him. But my concern, and I think on a similar lines of what you're saying, my concern is they're going to have to trade somebody. Or they either going to have to trade somebody or not pay somebody else that they need to pay. One of them guys that you listed that they can't afford to not pay, they're going to end up not being able to afford to pay. And unfortunately, going to have to watch that guy walk. Or they're going to have to trade somebody. Or they're gonna have to do some serious cap gymnastics to make everything work. But this is one of those good problems to have because they just got so many young players that they drafted around about the same time.
B, didn't we
And
say this about the Rams when they didn't have no draft picks and they won a Super Bowl?
yeah,
So
yeah,
you
yeah,
can
yeah,
make what I'm saying. I know we're talking about like two different things about the same token. If they take that mindset of, hey man, we could, it's money, we make it work.
yeah. But even like, I mean, we saw this with the Eagles, for example. This the whole reason why Reed Blankenship is on the team right now, and other guys like we've seen in other places where they have to make them tough decisions of uh like, do we want to, but maybe not. Reed Blankenship is not the best example, but we've seen around the league where a guy gets sent away or gets traded away because that bill has come due. And I'm not saying it's going to be Lassiter. I'm saying the impact is because he's probably somewhere toward the top, like right after the obvious of Will and CJ, and maybe we throw Nico in there. But he's right there at the top of guys that you absolutely just have to make sure are taken care of. Somebody somewhere is either going to get squeezed or you're going to have to trade them, and I think that's a good problem to have. But I'm very, very curious to see how they play this CJ thing, because I agree with your point, and it's a tough situation to be in, honestly, because I've said this before. If you flip flop CJ Stroud's rookie year and his third year, you pay him immediately, and we're not even having this conversation. But now, since we got the recency bias, and it's a "what have you done for me lately" league, and CJ had a bad playoff game, it's like they're using that. And I understand this, but it almost felt like they're using that as a negotiation tactic, as a negotiation tool. Because we all know in our right mind, okay, and this is not us just trying to uh stroke the ego of CJ Stroud or be here pom poms or nothing like that. But the overall body of work would suggest that CJ Stroud has earned a contract as well and that he should get paid. But also the "what have you done for me lately" recency bias aspect of it, I think works in the Texans' favor from a negotiation standpoint, for where they can say, you know what, I'm gonna wait and see and make sure that you're actually the guy. And like, if they want to play that kind of hardball, go right ahead. But that bill gonna come through, and that rubber gonna have to meet the road at some point, man. And eventually these contracts gonna start to collide a little bit, and you are gonna have to do the cap gymnastics that you've seen other teams do, like Philly, like the Rams, other places where I feel like New Orleans was doing it for a long time back in the Sean Payton days, where they just keep on pushing it down the road, give everybody up front
Philly
money,
did
and
it
just keep
enough to
pushing
get a
it down the
Super
road.
Bowl, though.
Say it again.
Philly did it enough to get a Super Bowl, right?
Yeah, yeah. No, hey, look. Well, to your point on that, that's why, and this is to bring it all back. That's why these years are so important.
Yeah.
Okay, and it almost goes without saying, but I feel like we can't stress it enough. That's why it is important for the Texans. So everything that we talk about with them, obviously the defense is amazing, but from the offensive line to the weapons to the offensive coordinator and the play calling and everything, it is important that they do not piss away these years where they've got all of this talent under all of this cost control talent, all of these guys on the team that haven't been paid yet, or if they have been paid, the cap hit ain't that yet, and they're not really feeling the ramifications of it yet. You drafted a bunch of really good players between the years of 2022. Let's forget about this year's rookies. Between the years of 2022 and 2020, let's just go back to Kamari's rookie year. Since Kamari and Kalen are of the same draft class and have both been Pro Bowlers, and as you and I agree, have all pro potential. From 2022, hell, 2021 when you drafted Nico, to 2024 when you drafted the Kamari and Kalen, you have drafted a bunch of guys that have earned or will earn a second contract. Jalen Petrie is in that mix of guys that got paid, right, from the 2022 class. So you've done a good job of drafting. guys
Finding
over
talent
this
in these
time.
in different rounds.
Yes. And so it's important not just staggering the talent, but staggering the production and output that you get, or not staggering, maximizing the production and output that you get with that talent before that bill comes due.
Yep.
So it increases the importance, and it's why I understand why people kind of got outside their minds about last year, because that was an opportunity there. And it's why this year is so important, because eventually you either gonna have to make some tough decisions where you part with somebody, or everybody becomes more expensive and the team is harder to build unless you replicate what you've been doing over the last 5 years or so.
Real quickly before, and I know we got to get ready to go. I just had to ask you one quick question. When I know we're talking about Kamara, but I got to ask you a question about C.J. Stroud and him being extended and him getting paid, right?
Yeah.
Because this is something that I mentioned, and I asked. I forgot who it was. I asked, it was a while. Or maybe it was just asking one of the people who were commenting on my show. I asked, and Reed Blankenship made reference to it the other day during his press conference. B, are you paying CJ Stroud from what he's done in the past, or are you paying CJ Stroud for what he's going to do in the future? Because I always felt like when people get contract extensions, right? When they get there on their second contract, or when they get these extensions, and for whatever amount of money they get him for, right? I'm not going to put a monetary value on it because I can't. I don't want to play that game. But when they get these contracts, they're getting a contract based off of what they're going to do in the future, right?
Yep.
So how are you still holding the past against them?
Oh, I think that's a great question, because the past. I think it's actually opposite. I think if you are paying CJ Stroud based off of the past, I think you pay him immediately, because he's got more positive in his past than he does negative. I think his career has been overwhelmingly positive for the first 3 seasons. Again, to the point that I was making before, I think they're using those last 2 games as a negotiation tactic, and to their advantage of saying, well, okay, we're not sure, but let's play that thought out, and just for the sake of the argument, give them the benefit of the doubt that that's what they really believe. That these last 2 games were so bad that now they're not sure if what they saw through the entirety of the 3 years is actually real, or if he's more of a, if it's not right.
Yep.
Well, they can use that to say, well, we've already gotten the best of so the narrative is that he's regressed, that he's not as good as he was his rookie year, right? If they want to play into that narrative, they can say, well, we already got the best out of him, and
Mhm.
based off of what we've seen most recently, we don't feel good about the future with him, and so we don't want to pay him. This is why I'm saying it's a little bit of the opposite the way you presented it, because they could say, hey, we don't want to pay him all of this money just because he had a historic rookie year, just because he had one of the better starts to a career that you'll find. That's all well and good, but we paid him number 2 overall pick money to do those things. He did his job. Shout out to him. But because of what we just saw, we don't believe that he is as good, that he's 60, $70 million good. And we don't want to pay him for the future. We don't.
So
We don't believe. More accurately, we don't believe in his future to that degree. That's the devil's advocate, or the argument that they could make if they were to not pay C.J. Stroud. And I say all that with the caveat: I would go ahead and just pay the guy, try to get to some kind of agreement as best as I could. Now it could be that they playing hardball. They want to reset the market and all of that. Maybe we got to talk, but that's the case. Is how much of how much success can we project from CJ Stroud based off of the most recent thing that we've seen from him, which is why again this season is going to be really important, because if the recency bias is positive, and I think it's going to be, they're going to have to pay CJ Stroud a lot of money.
uh-oh.
Oh, did I lose you? I lost you. I lost you. I see you. You frozen. I can hear you. Y'all let me
B,
know.
you
Y'all see
sound like
Sarge?
B, you sound like
Uh-oh.
C3PO from Star Wars.
Hold on. Let me see. Did I knock out my
Let me
internet's
say
still
this
here?
while let me say this while you're getting that together because you did freeze. So I will say this. Um, if we're looking at and if we're looking at it from a standpoint of recency bias, and you're looking at the last, not you per se, but if they're going to negotiate with the last 2 year, I'm sorry, 2 game tactic, right? If you're going to just use the last 2 games, then uh we can hear Sarge, but he frozen. Wait, I'm frozen. Senior
You
Boble, I'm frozen, or is B Scott frozen? Because B Scott frozen on my end.
we both frozen on each other end. I can't tell what they looking at. I'm trying to refresh on my other screen, see what it look like. You frozen on my end, and I'm frozen on your end. I'm looking at
B.
the live now. It look like you frozen. Oh, you back. You back. They say they can hear us both though. So go ahead. Go ahead with your point.
Oh, I'm frozen on, but it says I'm frozen on the live screen. So, look, B. If they can still hear me, follow me on the app formerly known as Twitter at Big Sarge Sports the Z at the end. Follow me on the Tick and the Talk at Big Sarge Media. Make sure you subscribe to the Texas Tailgate Talk Show on YouTube. Make sure you follow me on Instagram at Big Sarge Sports the Z at the end. Because you know we do everything for the gram. Oh, B, I'm back. You back? Oh, I was like, hey, I didn't know what was going on. I was just
Yeah.
gonna say, you know, I didn't know. I was just like, hey B, I don't know what I'm supposed to do with my hands. I, I don't I don't know what I'm supposed to do. Hey B, well, hey look, we can finish those points after when we talk after the Texans. We didn't even get to the preseason game against the Raiders. I guess we don't expect nothing but just to be there. And I'm just here so I won't get fined.
Hey. So I'm glad you mentioned that. I was literally in my car today trying to decide, man, am I gonna even because D'Amico came out and said that the start that or the report at least is that after D'Amico said that everybody that was healthy was gonna play, that now he feels like that they got enough work in the joint practice that they don't necessarily need to play. And I'm like, man, I might
But I
go
need
watch
to be there.
baseball. Nah, I might go watch baseball. I
Are
might
they
I might
here?
yeah. But the only problem is they playing the Angels, and I probably won't want to do that.
Who wants to
But
watch
so
the Angels?
I say that jokingly, like the football ain't gonna be no more worth watching than the baseball is. But I'll be there. We'll see each other there, and then we'll break it all down. I'm gonna be on Sarah's show on Friday. We're gonna do this again on Friday. On which one we doing? You got so many channels and so many different ways to find you. We
Just
doing this on Big Sarge Media,
we're gonna
Texas
do this on the
Tailgate.
and we're gonna do it on the Texas tailgate to give it to the people. We're gonna do it live, right? We're gonna do it live. And so for those of you all who follow me, you already know what I'm about to say. But for those of y'all who support me, right? And for the supporters that are here for B Scott, I promise you I will not get him in trouble on 95.7 the fan. That's right, right?
That's it.
I won't get him in trouble on 95.7 the fan, but I will say this. Hey B, on my show, we cuss. All right. So I'm gonna need you to pray before you come on my show because on my show, I'm gonna cuss. So I'm gonna cuss. And now I won't use profanity like loosely throughout. But if the situation calls for explicit word, I'm going to say it because at that point, they say that people who cuss a lot do that for lack of an intelligent words. Well, sometimes if you just want to call somebody, I don't know how to intelligently call somebody a dumbass. So
Yeah.
I don't. So I'm sorry, be out of mean because, like I said, I know you monetize on your station. So I mean, hey, look, edit it to where it said "Wait, would ass."
Hey, nah, man, I'm gonna be real with you. I'm trying to cuss less, but a dumbass is a dumbass. And cuss words, I like how you said that. Cuss words are, and I'm gonna go ahead and start playing the cuss words are situation appropriate. So if the situation called for a cuss word, the situation called for a cuss word, and that's just what it is, man. So we're gonna do our thing, man. That's Big Sarge from Big Sarge Media, Texans tailgate talking as well as the Texans cookout. Y'all check your boy out. We're gonna be on doing this again in just a couple of days. We got Texans and Raiders at Reliance Stadium, 7 o'clock. Y'all check it out. Then y'all check us out. In the meantime, make sure that you are subscribed to the B Block with B Scott on YouTube, especially wherever it is you get the podcast. Again, Big Sarge Media, all of his platforms as well. What else you got, Sarge, before we get out?
Why the hell didn't Graham Mertz just run out of bounds?
What was he thinking?
I'm done.
What was he thinking? But
I'm
I
done.
think he was just trying to make a play. I get that man fighting for his life, but now he really fighting for his NFL life. Cautionary tale, man. Stick to that. Hey, TLC once said to stick to the rivers and lakes that you are used to. The rivers and the lakes that you are used to. I know that you're going to have it your way or nothing at all. But I think he was moving too fast.
You scrub hollering at the passenger side of your best friend, right?
That's the lesson. Hey, with that, we're going to get a benediction. That's the lesson for the day. Y'all catch us later. B Block Podcast.